Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah,
You
yeah,
told me
yeah,
to
yeah,
never.
yeah,
So
yeah. That's what's name.
it was cool because number one, it was just a big surprise. I didn't even know it was there. So
Hmm.
have you been in there physically? What up, yo?
I've never been in the actual museum. I believe I'm following him. But I like the idea of it representing hip hop and uh, hip hop from what we grew up on.
And that's
Um,
exactly what it is.
yeah.
It's like so so you go up in there. So he's got the one space. I guess it used to be called the cop shop, and he does events there. Then he got the space above it, which is right next door.
Hmm.
So that's where I was. So going in there, yeah, it's it's a converted house, so it's
Hmm.
obviously gonna be small, but the stuff that's on the wall is us, and
Yes.
like it's definitely something. If we were gonna make a museum, it would be that.
Yes. Shout out to Sarah. I have a homegirl named Sarah. We were working on something that I don't want to put out there right now because it was a great idea. At one point we
Hmm.
were working on it, and at the time I don't think you were like into museums, like being on the inside of the museums at the time.
Okay.
So I think now it would make more sense to get it done now with you and
Yeah.
Sarah. But yeah, when we get off here, I can shoot you a message about the idea. But we
Hmm.
went through like the whole idea of what we can do. But I
Hmm.
think you would love the idea. But it's definitely hip hop, 90s hip hop
Yeah.
at its core. But
Yeah.
so yeah, you seen like the Jet magazine, the Vibe magazines, the different artifacts. Like this is a true
Yes.
museum in a sense of having artifacts of our culture.
Culture. Like he had a red flag on the wall, right?
Mm.
Which, of course, on the surface, it's like, oh, this nigga had a red flag, blah blah blah. But I actually saw it on IG. This guy, I guess he used to bang, but he's in a wheelchair,
Mm-hmm.
and he was relating. He was telling the people he was talking to how gangbanging is essentially learned from colonialism. It's guarding your territory. It's raising
Uh-huh.
your flag. It's defending that flag. It's getting with a group of people, finding a common goal, and finding a common enemy to defend your
Mm.
turf. And you
Mm.
do it based on certain symbols, whether it be hand signals, words, colors, whatever. We learned that from colonialism. And that's what he
Mm-hmm.
was saying. He was like, this whole red, blue, da 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 da. But in the grand scheme of the culture, like we've got to admit that gangbanging is a part of the culture.
Yes.
It is literally birth people. It's taking people away. It's taking people from the worst situations to the best situations, and vice versa.
Mm.
So
Giving
that's
them family.
yeah, you know what I'm saying. So that's the one thing. Like when I seen that, I'm like, bet, because that's basically what I was writing on is the fact
Mm-hmm.
that we are an ignored uh population. You know what I'm saying? Black males, urban
Mm-hmm.
black males, African American, whatever. We are a group of people that are completely ignored in the museum world. Last year all the museums was happy and shit. Excuse me, because the commodity is culture.
Mm-hmm.
We are an actual commodity. So the
Mm-hmm.
museums, it's all about the value. And if you can, that's the thing that I study is understand the value. Cool. But
Mm-hmm.
oh, I like that shirt. And it's like if the
Oh,
culture is the
Starlito.
value and the museums realize that, then they want our culture for that value,
Mm.
right?
As a
But
currency.
as a currency. But if we're not
Mm-hmm.
even in the rooms, and that's where that whole shit at the being made, where I realized where I was at because I'm in the room with these people they don't even have a clue as to how we have to survive. So yeah, it may be I'm living in this neighborhood going to school, but you know what? I got to give this up because, or I'm being influenced to do whatever outside. and that's taking me away from
Mm.
school. So I don't even know what's in the museums. I guess because that's something else I was like thinking about in the 80s, right? Like remember that episode we did where I was talking about growing up in Germany when everybody from different gangs was coming and this and that.
Yeah.
It was the 80s, right? They was giving people two choices: either go to the army or go to jail. And if you
Mm.
coming off the streets, you ain't going to jail. You going to the army. So they was bringing all that shit with them. So even in the culture of the United States military, niggas was still Bloods, Crips, folks, GD. They was just 18-year-old soldiers in uniform Monday through Friday, but the weekends them niggas was gangbanging in Germany. Hard.
Mm.
They was still the same people. So we are so complex that we can tell our stories, we can tell our interpretation in so many ways. But the big box museums, they realize what the commodity is in the culture and they're holding it. So they don't even want us in the space to see a red flag on the wall and be like, yo, let's tell the story of this neighborhood. How did we get here? How did this even happen?
Mm.
But you get, and that's something else I study in the academics of it is, and this is the statistics, right? Nerd out for a second. In the United States, in museum curators, reported curators, 76% of them are white. And of that 76%, I want to say over 90% are female. Then there's an article, if you look it up, it's called Can a White Curator Do African Art Justice? And basically what this article is saying is that only white curators who have like these Ivy League education can essentially, curate a culture that's not theirs by studying it. You can't study what the fuck we have inside of us.
Mm.
You can't put that shit in a book. It's a literal feeling. But according to their structure, you got to study. All right, cool. Well, niggas ain't going to Columbia like that. We ain't going to Harvard like that. Not to be museum curators, not in big
Mm.
numbers, right?
Mm.
So the field is already small and then it gets smaller to the point where you have a hip hop exhibit and it's just some blanket bullshit because that's the only thing that the museum understands, and they call that culture because they can check a community box.
Mm.
So that's kind of what it breaks down to. So we got to get in them spaces, but how do we get there? Is teaching people true history, right? Real history, getting people up on what's going on in the world, and then maybe going to the museums to where like the dude he was telling me how he does pop-ups all the time.
Mm.
That's essentially what we have to do is basically just do pop-ups. You can become your own museum. I talk about it all the time. Um, and I guess that that's my specialty is knowing how to plug shit in. But you can do a pop-up museum on the corner of North and Penn, the
Mm.
history of Baltimore, the history of this neighborhood. Do a pop-up, curate that joint, be out there 3 hours, bam, and you done.
Mm.
That's what we got to do to get a lot of this knowledge out. Is literally you got to, in the words of the great urban orator Kendrick Lamar, sometimes you got to pop out and show niggas.